this mentoring moment, I'd like to talk to you about the value of living your life and ministry out of a marriage that is strong and vital. So that in a sense, your marriage is your ministry. You're not just doing ministry and you're married. Marriage is your ministry in a very significant way. Because the Bible talks about the two becoming one flesh. And many times we think about that as a sexual union, and it is, but there's a whole lot more there, because when Jesus says that you'll leave your father and your mother and you'll cleave into your wife and the two will become one, I think he's talking about something much more profound than just a physical union. I think he's also talking about a spiritual union where the two are better than one, that we complete each other. And as we come together, there's this complementary part of the marriage where we're stronger because we're together. There's another point of view, if you will. There's another set of strengths, if you will. There's another set of life experiences that you bring into every situation if you begin to do life and ministry together. Now, I'm not saying that if you're a male pastor and you have a female wife, that you have to be pastor and co-pastor, or if you're a female who's maybe playing the lead role and the husband is married to you and in ministry, that he has to be a co-pastor. That's not what I'm talking about. There are some effective models where people pastor and co-pastor, but I'm talking about something more broad and maybe even more profound than a role or a title. There are many times in ministry where the two participants in ministry find themselves doing different things at different times in different ways. And I'm saying that's good. I'm saying let's make the most of that. Now, one person might have a career that's a completely different career. So maybe they're not cycling into all of the same things that the other person is doing on a daily basis. However, the very fact that they can use their career and their learnings and their own gifts and uniqueness to add to the other is wonderful, and it should be valued. It's a complementary way of completing one another. It should be valued. I know that inside of the church we get tied up sometimes by titles, or we get tied up by, someone might say, hey, there's nepotism, or these other kind of things like can sometimes interfere. I just want to encourage you to really fight for the value of the fact that you're better together. And as the Apostle Paul says in Ephesians, that you actually can decide how to serve one another and submit to each other. And in that way of doing life together and ministry together, you're going to be stronger. You're going to be stronger because of the other person's point of view. It's really funny to me how that when we get married, a lot of times we say, oh, we're so much alike. I love being with this person. We love the same things. We do the same things. And that's all you hear is how much the same we are. And then you add like a dozen years and you go, we are so different. And all you can focus on is the difference. And I do think it's a matter of perspective. That there probably are things that draw you together because there's things you both are passionate about. It's probably your values that draw you together. But as you then do life and ministry, I want you to lean into the complementary way the other person can help you. And so that you begin to live out of your marriage, and your marriage becomes ministry, because you have a lot of married people in your congregation, and they're watching you very closely in the way that you treat your spouse and the way that you listen, or perhaps the way that you value the other person, or you maybe are able to give honor in your life. All of these things can be illustrated beautifully in marriage. And I think it also reminds us that just as God desires to be inside of a person's heart and be that key vital source of strength in that person's life and live out of union, Jesus often talked about being one with the Father, that God desires to live in union with his children. When we can live in union with each other in a beautiful way in our marriage, it's loving, it's valuing, it's trusting, it's affirming. It shows, again, this whole idea that the two can become one, not only in a divine way, God with his people, but his people with each other. And so your marriage then becomes a gift that you give to yourself. It blesses your spouse, but it blesses you because the longer you stay married, then the more it begins to have this return cycle back to you that gives you strength. And you'll hear married couples say, like, the longer we live together, the more we love each other. That's beautiful. It shows that they've invested in their marriage. And I've seen so many ministries that it seemed like one or more of the people poured themselves so much into the ministry, they didn't have anything for their marriage. And then ultimately, ministries always change. Pastors come and go. Churches will find a new pastor. God will call you somewhere else. That ministry will eventually change. But hopefully your marriage always goes with you and remains vital. So I'm just going to encourage you, like, prioritize your marriage and make it one of the best things that you give to your ministry. And don't put so much into the ministry you leave out your marriage, because in the end you might have neither. Value your marriage and make it a central part of your ministry.